In Tissue, there are numerous references to things which hold power that are human-made: buildings, maps, and receipts. We give these things power, but they do not really have power. Buildings, capitals, and monoliths represent human governments and businesses, symbolizing human power, and these organizations, as powerful as they at first seem, are shown to be weak when compared to nature. Maps segregate and divide the natural world. How? Through human power. Humans choose how to divide the natural world to control countries, borders, and people, and maps are a great example of humanity exerting power over nature, creating divides which are not natural. There are links here to William Blake's London and the Chartered Thames. By mentioning maps, Darker references the boundaries made by humans on the natural world, suggesting that these divisions are fragile and ultimately powerless against the true power of nature. Fine slips from grocery shops refers to receipts, a written or printed statement acknowledging something's been paid for or that goods have been received. And again, these are human-made, used to control through money. The metaphor of receipts flying our lives like paper kites suggests that money dominates us, it controls us, it has power. So there are a number of references to human power and control through the extended metaphor of paper. Paper then is a symbol of human power. Receipts can fly our lives like paper kites, but like paper kites that are fragile, human power is fragile and easily destroyed. Receipts are human-made, and the suggestion here is that human-made power is not permanent. In Tissue, just as we find in a number of poems in the cluster, nature is shown as more powerful than humans. The poem uses the imagery of paper maps that the sun shines through to emphasize this. The fact that the sun can shine through the maps suggests that human constructs are ultimately fragile when compared to the enduring power of nature, which shines through everything. The sun's light, a force of nature, is truly powerful. The contrast between human invention and nature in the poem reminds us that whilst human power may seem strong, it is temporary and will eventually be overcome by the lasting power of nature. This symbolism is further explored with the suggestion that daylight break through capitals and monoliths. Once again, the daylight symbolizes nature, the light of the sun, breaking through human-made power, government and business buildings, so nature is more powerful than human power. In the final lines of Tissue, Darker emphasizes the lack of power humans have by comparing them to human skin and paper. The image of a structure never meant to last, made from paper smoothed and stroked and thinned to be transparent, shows how easily human constructs of power can fade away. They're not meant to last, and this imagery ties back to the poem's theme that whilst humans build and create with self-confidence in their own power, these constructs are weak. In contrast, nature, symbolized by the light that shines through maps and the sun shining, is shown as more powerful. The poem ends by reinforcing the idea that nature's power is far greater and more long-lasting than any human-made attempt at power and control. In terms of form, Ozymandias is a sonnet, but not one we've ever seen before because of its rhyme scheme. The Petrarchan sonnet originated in the 14th century and has 14 lines. The first 8, called the octave, present a problem, and the last 6, called the sestet, present a solution to that problem. The octave always has an ABBA rhyme scheme, and the rhyme scheme of the sestet can vary. Now, we see elements of the Petrarchan sonnet in Ozymandias. There are 14 lines, structured as a group of 8 lines, an octave, which present the statue, and 6 lines, the sestet, which focus on the pedestal and the poem's wider message about power. But it doesn't stop there. Next, we have the Shakespearean sonnet from the 16th century, which is written in iambic pentameter. That's lines of 10 syllables with alternating stressed and unstressed syllables, is divided into 3 stanzas of 4 lines each, known as quatrains, and finished with a rhyming couplet which also serves as the volta. Its rhyme scheme is always ABAB, CDCD, EFEF, GG. And in Ozymandias, the opening rhyme scheme is ABAB, which fits the Shakespearean sonnet model, not the Petrarchan model, and the poem is written mostly in iambic pentameter. But there's more. The continuing rhyme scheme doesn't follow either sonnet form, but is doing something completely new. So what's going on? Well, whether you would choose to say that Ozymandias moves from a Petrarchan to a Shakespearean to a new form of sonnet, or would simply write that the poem is a sonnet, but one which is continually adapting and changing, lacking consistency in the rhyme scheme, the question is why? In a poem that says human power is transitory, it doesn't last forever, it changes over time, the rhyme scheme is also transitory, it changes over time as the poem progresses. Shelley uses alliteration to present the ruler's oppressive abuse of power. Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds at the start of words or phrases, and we see examples in the poem with Cold Command and King of Kings, with the repetition of the hard k sound. Now, sound is often important in poetry because of the roots in the oral tradition, where poems were spoken aloud to present important stories and cultural values. So always have a think about the sound a poem creates. What can we say about the sound in Ozymandias? Well, the repeated hard k creates a harsh and abrupt sound effect, reflecting the harsh and abrupt nature of Ozymandias' rule. That's why so many swear words have the k sound in them. It's a harsh and abrupt sound, and the alliteration gives us an indication of the kind of ruler Ozymandias was. This harsh sound reflects the oppressive power Ozymandias possessed, emphasising the poem's presentation of his cruelty. Now notice how that's analysing the effect of the alliteration, the repeated k sound, and not the meaning of the words themselves. That's a mistake a lot of students make. They identify alliteration but analyse the meaning or symbolism of the words rather than the alliteration, the effect of the repeated sound. In poetry, caesura is a stop or pause within a line, often indicated by punctuation such as a comma or full stop. Look at this example with the full stop in Ozymandias, nothing beside remains. The full stop after this forces the reader to stop and reflect on the end of Ozymandias' power. This abrupt stop symbolises the abrupt end of Ozymandias' legacy. What was once a symbol of immense power is now reduced to nothingness. And the message of this poem is about misguided notions of human power, how nothing lasts forever. So the caesura backs this up by making the end feel more final and empty. It makes the reader stop and think about the contrast between the past glory and the current emptiness, reinforcing the poem's theme that all human power eventually fades away.